to KultureFit, everyone, where East meets West in the world of health and fitness across Asia. I'm Natalie Dau, aka Rockstararms, and with me today, as always, is the truly amazing sports scientist Aaron Rolley.
We've got to move past the truly amazing, I think.
Yeah, we do. Today we have a truly inspirational person that we're speaking to. You may not have heard of Deanna Blegg, but after hearing her story, I'm sure you're going to want to Google her and find out more. Deanna personifies what it means to be faced with adversity and overcome it to achieve amazing things. Imagine having HIV at 23 and then you go on to discover that you have aggressive breast cancer later on in life. That's enough to make most people want to give up on life. But instead, Deanna has gone on to become one of the top obstacle racers around the world across all age groups. Deanna, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Nat, and thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Deanna.
Let's start from the beginning, if that's okay, and set the scene for your journey. So if we go back to maybe age 23, when you discovered that you had HIV, I mean, how did you cope with being told that news at the time, you know, as someone so young?
So at the age of 23, well, actually a little bit earlier, I decided I wanted to see the world and experience different cultures and different lifestyles and just see, you know, I'd grown up in Australia and I was one of three kids and had an awesome childhood, but I just wanted to see what was out there. So I started traveling and it took me to Nepal, India, and then I went across to England, travelled around Europe a bit, and then I met my best friend and headed down to Africa. I was there for 6 months and got pretty sick, so then I headed back to England. So I'd been, I guess by the time I got back to England, I'd been sick for about 6 weeks and had lost about 20 kilos of weight and was in a really, really poor state. So prior to that, I was a strong, fit, healthy, athletic person, and then I'd seen my body sort of waste away. So I went to the doctors to get, I just pretty much tested for everything because I'd been travelling, you know, probably about nearly a year by that stage. And I requested a HIV test and I didn't, you know, I was one of, like most people, it's something that I thought would never happen to me, but I just wanted to say, yeah, I've had the test and it's all good. But by the time I came back, actually the next day they called me and I had malaria and pneumonia and I've spent a couple of weeks in the tropical disease hospital. So that was back in the days when we didn't have internet, didn't have phones, so I was pretty alone in a very foreign place and I had a lot of time to think. And that's when, like, I started thinking about HIV and AIDS, and I thought, because I'd wasted so much and was so sick, I just thought I must have it. So I went to get my HIV result thinking that I must be HIV positive. And I walked in, doctor sat me down and told me the test result was positive. And even though I'd gone in with that prepared mindset, I still, the news blew me away. Like it was an immediate deflation of everything that I was and everything that I'd hoped, sort of just deflated out of me. And, my life took a very, very sharp turn from there.
I mean, and being all alone at the time, you know, over in a foreign country couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, no, it was, I spoke about how do I tell my parents, and they said, well, we'll wait till you get back to Australia to tell them so they can see you and they can, you know, they don't have to worry. But I wasn't prepared to go back to Australia yet. I just thought, man, I might make 5 years, so I want to keep travelling and I want to get the most out of my life. So it was something I just thought, there was no medication around at the time. I just thought, well, it's quality, not quantity, so I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and then I'll come back to Australia to pretty much die.
And then, so from there, when did they start to have the drugs, the retroviral, isn't it it's called?
Antiretrovirals, yeah. I continued travelling till I was about 25 and then headed on home due to another incident that happened while travelling. When I got home, it was a pretty bad time in my travelling life. and I just need the security of my family. But, that also meant, telling them about my HIV, which is never fun. My parents were awesome and very supportive. So that was in 1995, and the medication, my health from there through to 1996 deteriorated very, very quickly, and I guess I was what's known as a fast progressor. So from infection and 2 years later, I had an AIDS-defining illness, and the doctors didn't have a really bright future for me. They just kind of said, well, once you've got this, it's like people last about 6 months.
Oh.
So fortunately for me, in that 6 months, we had the medications for HIV became available in Australia, and that's why I'm here today.
And then, Deanna, with the medication you were taking, clearly the immune system was compromised, right? So there was no exercise at all in that time you were travelling or when you got back.
Yep.
How long did it take until you started to feel good and you could get into some exercise after the drugs kicked in?
So the medication kind of kicked in. They were very, very horrible medications to take back then, and the side effects were massive. So, I was never feeling great, but what I did feel was that I had a chance at life.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided I'd like to find, prior to that, I just thought, well, I'll just live each day just doing what I'm doing, but I won't get a job because it's no use. I won't find a boyfriend or make a family, or I just didn't want to pursue anything because I didn't know, I just thought, well, it's useless to do that if I'm only got like a year or 2 years to live. So once I started taking the medication, I started to think, hey, there's a chance that, that my immune picked up and my energy picked up. And I thought there's a chance that I can have a shot at life and I can achieve some things. So I guess my main driver was I didn't want to get to, if I made it to 60, I didn't want to get to 60 and go, man, I've just wasted my life, and HIV was the reason for that. So I just started looking at what I wanted, and I just thought, well, it'd be awesome to have a family, kids, what else, a career. I'd like to pursue sport. And they sort of happened, and there was, other things on my little list of things to do. But, so they sort of happened in that sort of I first had a family and developed my career, which was personal training. And it wasn't until sort of I was about 34, 35 that I decided that I'd, see how my body went with sport. So that was, I still had 6 or 7 years on the medication before actually actively seeing what my body could do.
And then how did you get into personal training, changing the direction there a little bit?
So what happened was after my first child was born, I came off my HIV medication because I thought I didn't need it anymore, which was, I did need it, and I found out very quickly I needed it.
Because the medication now pushes the load down so low that it's not even testable, is it?
At the moment, now it does. Yeah. But back then it was still a lot of trial and error, and they didn't know what the medication was doing. At the counts, undetectable back then was a count under 1,000, whereas undetectable now is under 20. So
wow,
they don't know. Like I could have been under 20 back then, but they couldn't test it. But I still pretty young and invincible, just didn't think I needed it. So I came off the medication, but I got pretty sick pretty quick, and I went back on, and I went on a different type of medication. With HIV, there's so many different combinations of medications to take.
Yep.
And they like to mix it up. So they put me on something different, but that caused this particular medication crossed the blood-brain barrier, and it caused like crazy dreams. It causes psychosis, depression, and a whole list of other mental sort of disorders. So I was, probably my daughter by then was 8 months old. And then, I might have had postnatal depression as well, topped off with that medication. I just went crazy. Not really crazy, but I just, I pretty much went into a really bad depression, hated being alive, and was in a bad place. And the only thing that was keeping me alive was my daughter, because I needed to be a mother for her. So anyway, moving on from that, what made me change to personal training? I moved into the city and I kept band-aiding my life. Like, I needed to feel good, so I started jumping out of airplanes and skydiving and, just doing crazy things to try and feel that adrenaline, feel a buzz for life. And that was all Band-Aids, but, I didn't know at the time. Anyway, another friend of mine was off medication. She was looking amazing. I just said to her, what are you doing? And she says, I go and see this personal trainer who knows about the HIV. He's awesome. And I just said, give me his number. And I started becoming personally trained. And it was from that time that when you train and lift weights and become strong, you get an inner strength that you can fight a little harder, or you can give. It's not just a medication. I thought, no, it's not just a medication now. I can fight this virus with my body as well. And the effects within a year of personal training, my immune health went from around 400 up to 1,400. And, all the percentages increased and my health ballooned. And I just thought, this is crazy good, but people have got to know about this. So I did a personal training course, and then I started training other people living with HIV who also got, similar, not as an extreme results, but similar results. So that's how my personal training career started.
And are you still personal training now?
I do online coaching.
So good. So if anyone wants help, yes, you are available.
Yes, I am. It's called Blegg Fit, and I guess my philosophy is to be fit for anything. So whatever's thrown at you in life, you can be fit and be, and be ready for it. So I train obstacle races, triathletes, adventure races, runners, cyclists, just a whole range of athletes for all different sort of things. Yeah.
And then was it during that personal training time that you found obstacle racing? How did you come across that?
So I trained a client came to me. She was 120 kilos and she said, I want to run a marathon. So I trained her and assisted her with her food, coaching and all sort of that. And she dropped 60 kilos and ran a marathon. And I ran beside her, like I did all her long runs with her. And then in this marathon, I ran beside her for that distance. And when she finished, just to see her elation and her her family just were, so supportive, and she was just so proud of what she had achieved. And I thought, I want a piece of that. I want to do something for myself so I could be proud of what I've achieved. I was keeping fit and I was getting, trained and still training and all that sort of stuff, but it was nothing. I wasn't competing or anything because I was a little bit scared to take that next step. But that training this lady and just going through that whole process with her just made me go, no, I need to go further. So that's what kick-started it. And my first event was an adventure race. So adventure racing is swimming, mountain biking, paddling and running. Yeah.
So let's not pick an easy one to start with. Let's just jump in the deep end straight away for a challenge.
It ended up being like a 6-hour event. But, when I saw a flyer for it and I went, I'm going to win this race. So I still thought I was 20. This is like 30, 35 by now, 36. And I didn't think I needed to train for it. And I got through it, but it was pretty hard work. But it fueled a fire that had died in me, and that was my turning point. And the year later when I came back and competed, I won it. And from then I've been adventure racing all around the world for another 7 years. I was adventure racing in Australian teams around the world. It was just an amazing life. It was pretty cool. And that's when I first, in 2011, when I was still at racing, I heard of Tough Mudders and obstacle races and that sort of stuff. So that pricked my ears up and off I ran with that.
So Deanna, when you started training, you were just training in a gym with the trainer, and then
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, just like the old school lifting stuff we were doing back in the early 90s there, or all the machine based training and everything. Did that? Yep. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yep.
You go.
I was going to say, how did that transfer over for your first obstacle race there? Because it can't have been too much of the training wasn't really similar to what we know now on how to train for these sort of things.
Yeah, sure. So the classic training I was doing a bit of powerlifting training, and then just general sort of stuff. But it makes you strong. That sort of stuff. Yeah, I wasn't on little machines. Like I was deadlifting, bench pressing, squatting, plyometric work. My coach was really good, and he got me fit in a lot of aspects in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
How did it transfer on? It gave me a different sort of a strength. So I, for the adventure race, I started my own running and mountain biking and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. And
it just transfers over for any sort of endurance event. If you've got like this inner strength in your muscles, I don't know, I think it makes you just...
Do you think maybe with you're a little bit mentally strong as well? And that's sort of what's pushing you through the situation? Because especially with those longer events, right? It's more... I mean, obviously your body has to be strong and you have to be fit, but it's a mental game as well, right? There must be a lot of times being like, do I really want to keep going? This is starting to hurt. So I think a strong person like you can just go, I think we can do this. Or like Nat, I just want to beat the person in front of me, basically.
Yeah, I do have a really good mental strength as well. I think I don't know whether it's so much strength, but it's an ability to turn off.
Yeah.
So rather than letting the voices in my head chat, I turn them off. And I go inside what I'd class as a little bubble, and I don't look beyond that bubble. So, for a 24-hour event, it's just like one step at a time. I don't think, oh, my God, I've done 8 hours, I've got another 24 hours to go. Like, I just keep it...
Sure
I
goals.
keep present in the moment, and I don't let the voices talk. Yeah.
So you're racing around the world, you're, winning stuff, you're doing amazingly well, you've got 2 beautiful children, and then a bombshell drops of you've got aggressive breast cancer. Was there a why the hell me moment in that?
So I was living the dream for sure. I just, woke up every day and go, I can't believe my life. Like I'm, 46 and 47 and
kicking ass.
Yeah. And I just thought, I would never have believed this. Even like HIV or no HIV, like I wouldn't have believed that this could be my life. So I was, every day was an awesome day. And then I got the bombshell, got breast cancer. And it's a grade 3 aggressive invasive. I started Googling what that was, and then I turned the computer off and I didn't ever Google again because, it's when you feed your brain with too much, it starts creating its own stories.
Yeah.
So I turned the computer off and didn't research any further. But what I told myself was everyone's story doesn't have to be my story. Or, I can create my own story. And Lance was an awesome, Lance Armstrong, because he had really shocking cancer and he went through really horrid treatment, and he came out the other end as a very, very awesomely extreme athlete. So, I just thought if Lance can do it, I can do it. But back to the time I found out, I kind of, not that I laughed, but I was just like, oh, my God, is there anything, what else is there? Sort of. It was never a why me, this isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. It was more, jeepers, all right, I've got this. What am I going to do to get through it? And I had some great advice from a lady who'd just recently gone through breast cancer. She said, just take a year. She said it's going to take a year out of your life, accept it, and know that it will pass. And she said, whatever you choose, you've got to go through the motions of it, but it will pass, she said. So that was really good advice. I just thought, well, what's a year in 48 years? It's not really much. It's kind of just a blip. So I just, all right. I thought, well, I chose to go through chemo and radiation.
Yep.
And I just, I didn't fight that either. I just accepted it as this is my choice, and I'll go through the process and do what I need to do, or what the doctors think I need to do, and get that all done. And then after that, I'll rebuild myself. And my goal was to rebuild myself a stronger, healthier, fitter and wiser version.
And yeah, which I think, you've done. And part of that journey was also, I'm gathering, turning vegan as part of your recovery. Is that right?
Yeah. So
was that the catalyst?
Sorry?
Was the cancer the catalyst for turning to veganism? Because a lot of people do tend to move more towards a plant-based diet after they have a cancer scare. That's
right. Yeah. So after going through, when I was diagnosed, I had a pretty good diet, but I was a meat eater, and like a meat every day, and sometimes lunch and dinner, sometimes animal protein breakfast, lunch and dinner. So whilst I ate a lot of plants and vegetables and fruits around it, I still was a heavy meat eater. And even through chemo, I was still eating meat. But after chemo, I was just, I don't know how to explain how you feel after chemo, but I was alive but not alive. And I went to an integrative doctor, and I walked in, I said, I do not ever want to go and have chemo again. What do I need to do? Yeah, so I went in, I said, I don't want that ever again. What do I need to do? And she says, these are 3 things. You need to stop eating animal products. Yeah, I've got to stop eating processed food, and you've got to stop eating sugars. So from that day onwards, I pretty much stopped all of the above. I have a bit of soy milk or rice milk or that sort of stuff, but everything else is made from scratch. I don't eat animal products except for honey, because it's not. I like honey. I liked meat too, but that's like a protein, whereas honey's, there's a lot of good stuff in your honey. And I know, if I was an ethical vegan, you shouldn't eat honey either, but I don't use any gels or any other things when I race. So I need to find a really high sugar source, and honey is my go-to.
And Deanna, so how long have you been vegan for now?
I'd say about a year.
Oh, okay. And have you noticed like a blip in performance, or is it hard to tell? Or
I have noticed so much positive. Firstly, a mental state of mind is, I'm not so up and down. It's a higher constant, if that makes sense. So there's no highs, lows, high, low, happy, sads. It's just I'm kind of on a really good energy, and it's above what my old energy used to be. Yeah. As an older athlete, I used to wake up in the morning and get out of bed and sort of hobble and creak and groan for about 30 minutes before I all warmed up, and then I could walk normally. That's totally gone. All those creaky, I just get out of bed. I feel amazing. I'd had chronic tendinopathy for 4 years. That's gone.
So you think it's reduced a lot of inflammation in your body, going vegan, and then you really feel the performance is like night and day with taking the meat out.
Oh, crazy! My performance and my recovery. I'm noticing like my performance is good.
Yeah.
And I had, like this year, I've just competed at the World's Toughest Mudder, and whilst my placing wasn't the best I've ever had, my actual race and the distance I covered and my recovery was the best I've ever had. And I'm talking, I'm like 48 now. I first raced that race when I was 42. So to be another 6 years older, have gone through chemo and radiation. I finished my cancer treatment 10 months ago. Like to have done that and then have my best race, I totally put it down to my nutrition.
And let's just clarify, we're just saying you're not having a good race. You came fourth female overall across all age groups. So, still above what 99.9% of the population would ever achieve.
Yeah. That's right. And I don't know. I think I finished in the top 15. I think I was 11th, but I don't know whether it's adjusted since. But that was 11th outright at men and women.
And just so people know what World's Toughest Mudder involves, I mean, it is the best, trail. There's amazing trail runners. There's amazing obstacle runners. Like, it is the best of the best. And it's a 24-hour race just outside of Vegas. How many miles did you do, over that 24 hours?
Well, officially I did 80 miles. However, I hadn't done enough upper body strength training, and I failed a lot of the upper body activities. So I think I popped another 20 miles in there on penalties. So it would be 100 miles all up. And
for people that don't know the race, again, there's obstacles all the way around. You're jumping off basically cliffs into water. I mean, it goes from Vegas heat to freezing at night. So what you have to deal with is just crazy stuff. Yeah, not for the faint-hearted. It's the epitome of obstacle racing in the world. Turning vegan has inspired you to try and share that story with other people now, and I believe you are launching your own book.
That's right, yes. Myself and my friend Amanda Seidel, we're just in the final phases of putting a 4-week guide on how to change your life or change your food to plant-based whole foods, or vegan, otherwise known as vegan, and it's called Veganize Me Now. And the motivation for this was because I was eating plant-based whole food, people are going, where do you get your protein from? Where do you get your protein from? And I got over that pretty quick, and I flexed my muscles a bit, took a few photos and said, pretty much on plant-based whole foods, I get enough protein because, my muscles are sort of bulging out of themselves. So, and then I got so many messages, oh my gosh, what are you doing? How do you, what does your day look like? I want to eat the same as you. And I like to answer people, but it was just, too much. So I just said to my friend Amanda, she had a program called Healthy Mums, and she's created a few superfoods called Turbo Superfoods. And she's very passionate about health and wellness. So I said, look, let's put a book together, and we can answer everyone's questions all at once. So that's what we've done. It's called Veganize Me Now. You can find it on www.veganizemenow.com. And I imagine, all going well, next week it will be released. It's an ebook.
Awesome. So we'll put a link in for everyone as well who wants to click back to it. So you've written a book now. Physically or challenge wise, what's next for you? What else is there left to do?
Well, I was approached last year by another lady that I'd raced with in adventure racing called Frankie Saunders, and she'd gone through breast cancer probably 6 months before I did. And she approached me. There's a race over in New Zealand called God Zone. It's a expedition style adventure race, which means it's sort of you start and you've got a certain distance to cover, and some teams do it in 6 days, some teams do it in 10 days. And she said, do you want to put a group of women that have gone through breast cancer together and do this event? So, jumped on it. It sounds amazing. So we've called, the team's called Women Beyond Cancer, and we've just found ourselves like a sponsor to cover our entry fee, which was awesome. It's New Zealand Home Loans. So we're in 1st of March going to go to the fjordlands of New Zealand and travel by foot and by bike and by boat for 10 days on an adventure race.
Wow.
I love New Zealand.
Yeah, what a great place to do it too.
Yeah.
And back at World's Toughest Mudder for you next year?
Well, that's a good question. I would love to go back. However, I've got another thing I'd like to do that I've been talking about for a long time, but I've never really made the commitment, and this time I think I'm going to. I do a bit of CrossFit in the background, and there's the Reebok CrossFit Games over in America in July, and I want to qualify for them and represent Australia in the team, the Masters team, in 2019. So, endurance racing and CrossFit don't complement each other. So I have to
focus.
Ditch one.
Yes. Yeah.
So after this adventure race, I'm going to switch to CrossFit and be a CrossFit athlete and do what my coach says and not do sneaky runs.
Oh, well, that's good. We can talk to you in a year's time and see how that training's going too.
What training do you enjoy more? Because the training's so different. You still enjoy both of them, or?
Oh, I love CrossFit, and I love running, and I love endurance. But it's
so everything. Really.
Once again, sorry.
So you love everything really to do with exercise, basically.
As long as you can mix it up and keep it varied up, I think that's why I love adventure racing, because there's so many aspects, and obstacle racing as well. So once again, it's a year and a half, and that process to get there will be about a year and a half. So I will just switch what I do for a year and a half. It's just another chapter.
Yeah.
So I'll follow that chapter and then see what happens after that.
Awesome. So what's your favourite item in your gym bag?
My asthma pump. I don't use it all that often, but when I need it, it's vital.
Oh, cool. And favourite brands that you train in for shoes and clothing?
Sure. So I swear by Innovate. I've got Innovate CrossFit shoes, Innovate obstacle racing shoes, and Innovate adventure racing shoes. And that they just make such an awesome range. So they cover all bases for me. And clothing, I love Skins Performance Recovery. Also, Innovate make a great range of clothing. And I've just trialled these Lululemon Naked Sensation running tights, and they're pretty amazing. They're it's a shame it's summer now because they're a winter. Well, these long ones are for winter, so I'll look forward to winter when I can pop them on again.
Okay, and then what's the one thing you can't live without?
Oh, can I have two?
Yes, you can have two. Of course you can.
Apart from my fruits and veggies, I take a performance and recovery powder called Turbo Superfoods, and I do love my honey when I'm racing. That's my race fuel.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deanna. It's been amazing and inspiring talking to you. So we look forward to reading the book, which we'll have a link to for you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure everyone's going to be following your journey as you adventure race and then qualify for the CrossFit Games in 2019. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Nat. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you. That's another episode of Culture Fit signing off for this week. Thank you.